What's up? Welcome to the show. We are joined today by a very special guest. I'm super excited for the opportunity to get to sit down and talk with Michael Felker. Did I say the last name right?
Yep.
The frontman of the insanely awesome Convictions. And so, Michael, thank you so much for hanging out with us this afternoon and taking time out of your schedule to come and be with us today. We couldn't be more excited for the opportunity to sit down and chat with you for a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So we actually got the chance to come see you live. Y'all did the Southern Exposure Tour, and we didn't get the chance to catch you when y'all came down then, but we saw the Attack poster come out and saw y'all were the I'm gonna call it a co-headliner. They probably wouldn't like that very much, but well, we saw y'all were on it, and so we loaded up the truck, and a group of us headed over from Little Rock to see y'all in Memphis, and y'all absolutely crushed it.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely crushed it. I don't know. I do want to ask you, that show was a little weird. It was on a holiday weekend. The crowd was a little lower than y'all are probably used to at this point in your career playing. Whenever you come in those situations that are kind of that end up being like that, how do you get the energy and the drive to stay with that, like, on 10 the entire show when the crowd may not be with you the whole time like that?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of part of the game, like you have your own ego, and you're like, oh man, this doesn't reach my expectations, right?
Right.
But there's people like you guys traveling from far, that pay, money, good money, hard-earned money for a ticket. Like, I feel like for me, a big part of my like integrity as a performer is to give them the same show, whether it's 5,000 people or 50. Like, you're gonna get the same. My whole drive is to give them the same show, and that's something that I think everybody in our band like really puts a lot of focus on.
Yeah, that's super cool. And speaking of 5,000 to 50, y'all are on the bill and have played some of the biggest festivals in the country this summer, between Incarceration, Louder Than Life, Rock Fest. What's that experience like?
Man, it's exciting. It's really crazy. Like, we've been doing this for a long time, and we've had a history of playing some pretty cool shows, but lately it just seems like there's been a big spike in opportunities, and we've just been running with it, man. Like, it's been crazy.
Yeah. Y'all just came off tour with Born of Osiris. We actually were planning to sit down and chat a while back, and then y'all kicked off a Canadian run, and that makes things a little difficult.
Oh yeah, I felt terrible. It's such a crazy week, because it was like, when you like leave like that, especially outside the country, it's like you have to like basically prepare like to start a new life, because you're gonna be gone for a month. So it's like, I gotta see my parents, I gotta make sure my finances are okay, whatever. Like, so I felt terrible for that. I'm glad we're able to meet now.
Yeah, there's absolutely no reason to feel terrible. I was almost a cosign of like, that's super sick that y'all got to go to Canada, tour with those guys, and play. I saw the pictures from those shows. They looked insane.
Yeah, it was gnarly, man.
Yeah. So have y'all done a lot of performing outside of the U.S.?
Yeah. So yeah, like, we just did a month in Canada last just about a year ago now. We were in Mexico, and I mean, we've done Canada a handful of times, we've done UK a few times, Europe a couple times, we've done Russia, Japan. Wherever we can, we'll go.
Insane, yeah. I look at like and you correct me if I'm wrong, but like, when I think about metal music, and especially the type of music that y'all create, it seems like Europe has a different like level of interest in it. Like, here it's kind of it. Even the most popular, I use Bring Me the Horizon as a good example. Like, I watched the video of them playing Royal Albert Hall in England, and it's sold out, and it's insane to watch. And then they come to America, I see them playing in a bar in Dallas. It's a big bar, granted, but it's like, that's the difference of, just in the same calendar year, they play these two massively different shows, one being in England, one being here. Do you find that to be true, that over there they just have like a different level of interest in, heavier metal music?
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially in Europe. UK is actually really similar to the US. I've experienced like, like, we get so many good shows and opportunities to see, cool bands or theater or whatever. we get kind of spoiled, and I feel like certain places and markets that they're kind of like, oh well, we'll see them next time they're here. Like they'll be back in a couple months. Like Europe, like we haven't been to Europe since I think 2019. Aside from a couple festivals we did in Germany recently. So I think there's a little bit more of like a demand, I think, for it, but
Mm.
also like culturally, like I feel like metal is like more ingrained, I think, in their culture. And it's crazy, like the level of like accommodations they have. Like a lot of the venues, especially as you work your way towards like Eastern Europe, they have like bunk houses or like what we would call like Airbnbs, like attached to venues. So it's crazy. Like they'll roll out the red carpet, you play your show, and then you just walk into the building next to it, and it's like bunks and showers and like spreads of food, and
That's
they
pretty cool.
they really know how to treat artists out there. It's really cool.
It's like a green house, I guess, instead of a
Pretty
green room.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like very frequent. Like we're just gonna stay here tonight. Like, all right. So yeah,
Uh,
it's quite the experience.
yeah, I saw an interview with lead singer for Skillet. His name John Cooper, and he was talking about how like here they're not Skillet is known as a Christian rock band. Like that's kind of the moniker they carry with them everywhere they go. But over there, they don't really see them that way. Y'all being a Christian metal band, being pretty vocal about that in your lyrics and kind of in your your social media presence and all of those things. Do y'all find is it similar to you? I know the music style's different, so the crowd's a little different between the two. But do y'all run into much of that here versus over there anymore?
It depends. I mean, I feel like we didn't really have any like scuffles or any like awkward, confrontations with when it came to like our spirituality and our message and music. There was only like one awkward guy in Austria who was like very hell bent on making it a point to come to me and say, God has no place in Austria or something like that. So that's just like one guy, and it's like, I don't know what his deal was, but kind of awkward. But other than that, like people were for the most part really respectful. And I feel like the way that we portray our faith is we're like intentionally not trying to Bible thump or force it on anybody. It's more about like finding that common ground that I think we can, kind of see eye to eye on, and then that hopefully can build interest if they want to pursue a relationship with Jesus. But no, for the most part, everybody was really cool. I think they're more interested in just like the music.
Yeah.
If they can get down to it. And I feel like a lot of these European countries like just straight bare bones metal, and we're playing metalcore, so there can be like a little bit of friction there depending on the audience. But
I was going to ask about that because that term metalcore has been co-opted for almost the genre really doesn't tell you a whole lot about the band you're going to see.
yeah,
If you hear the term metalcore, it could be anything from borderline deathcore to like a pop punk band almost in a lot of instances, or I like party metal. I don't even know how the genre would be. Is that difficult as a performer and as a band? Because y'all, I would say that you're a little on the heavier side. Y'all have some cleans in your music, but there's a lot of harshes, a lot of heavy. Whenever you go into venues, I know when we saw y'all, the four bands were vastly different from one another. Attack to downswing. I keep wanting to say downsizing. But all the bands that y'all were on that bill with y'all, I don't like there wasn't two that I was like, these are the same exact genre. Like this is rap, or this is what it is. Is that difficult to kind of prepare for like different crowds and things, especially as you kind of like when you were middling for bands or things like that?
I don't know. I mean, with Convictions, like we try to keep it a fair spread. Like like you said, there's singing, and then there's like songs that are heavier. I'm always pushing to go heavy.
Yeah.
But yeah, metalcore has become kind of like a blanket genre. Like it could be, like you said, pop sounding bands or very heavy bands. So for me, I think the big thing I look for with like a lineup is like good variety. And different experiences just to try and have like a well-rounded experience. Like for me personally, like if I'm listening to a deathcore band and then another deathcore band and then another deathcore, I'm like by the headliner, I'm like I'm cashed out. That's fatigue.
Yeah.
I love deathcore, but it's just kind of like I want to have variety and dynamics in the experience for the night. So for us, like it's fun. Like I love playing with really brutal bands, and I like playing with softer bands. Like you want to try and stand out, in some way.
Yeah, we went to a show here in town. Silent Planet got added to a Dayseeker show whenever they were on tour here in Little Rock, and it was Dayseeker was a headliner. We saw Chelsea Grin and we saw Silent Planet open for Dayseeker. If there's ever been a whiplash in a concert, that was about it.
That's funny. I know both those bands pretty well now, and we've known them for a long time. And Silent Planet, Dayseeker, they would tour together all the time. So
They have
they're
some
friends.
connection, don't they?
What's that?
They have some like connection from back in the day. I think they talked about it when we were there or something. Like the guy from the front man for Silent Planet had worked with Dayseeker early on some music or something.
I'm not 100% sure on that. I just know that they're friends and they used to tour together a lot. We would hop on some of those shows back in the day.
Yeah, that's super cool. I did want to. I saw online you're coaching harsh vocals.
Mm-hmm.
Something I've always been curious about with learning harsh vocals. Do you run up against? It seemed like there was an era where harsh music was for like those who did not have the ability to sing. There was the Sonic Highways Foo Fighters kind of docu-series, and he even talks about that whenever he's talking about like Bad Brains and things. He's like, yeah, this is for all the guys who couldn't sing in the like traditional sense. But I think that's definitely changing, and you see frontmen who can do both exceptionally well. But do you ever run up against somebody who's just like, yeah, they can't scream, like it's just not going to happen for them?
No. Especially as like a vocal instructor, like I have to kind of be like everybody can scream. People have different like skill levels for sure. But as far as like the anatomy, like we all have the capabilities of it, unless you went through some traumatic injury or something. But yeah, I've worked with. I actually just did a lesson like 30 minutes ago.
Yeah. No, we lost you for a second. Yeah, the harsh vocal thing is just fascinating.
I was going to ask, has it been harder since he lost his other vocalist?
Oh,
there we go. We're back.
Oh, we're back.
Has it been harder since you lost Josh, or has it been easier to pick up where he left off?
I think my call dropped. Okay, so my call, I like left the thing when we were talking about screaming.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. Actually, I think we segued. All right, but Josh had a question.
Is it harder now since you've lost Josh, or has it been easier to transition, pick up kind of where he left off on the clean vocals with Pat?
So it's I guess it's kind of a tricky thing to unpack because Josh was one of our founding members, and he wanted to go on to pursue his own solo music, and like we're all fully supportive of that. It's definitely like a change of pace, I guess, just because of like the order of operations. But Zach and I still being like founding members, like we understand the band fully,
right?
And where we want to take it for the most part. And Pat has been a part of Convictions like for years now, even before he ever played a show with us. Pat's a producer, so we would go, and he's from our area, so we would go to him for like pre-production or like studio revisions and things like that. He was really helpful for us with that. And then when it came time for Josh's replacement, Pat was like our first choice.
Yeah. Good. Speaking of that, I saw so you're from Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Like way north Ohio.
Yeah, we're about like 40 minutes from Detroit.
Yeah, I saw it pop up on Google when I was looking at something else, and So, off question from music for a second. So, being so close to Detroit, are you faithful to Ohio when it comes to like fandoms, or do y'all slide up to Detroit typically where y'all are at?
I'd say pretty much Ohio.
Yeah.
I love Michigan. We love, I'm personally a Wolverines fan. But we're
in the corner.
we're pretty much like Ohio based. Great hometown support and such.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I lived in Cincinnati for a little while, and
Okay.
which obviously the other end of everything up there. But and I got family who lives in Ohio as well. So there's odd connection that I found whenever I was looking around, kind of y'all's history and what y'all have, where y'all come from and all.
Yeah, it's kind of gnarly. There's a lot of bands that come from here.
A lot of Midwest bands, just kind of in general, it seems like.
It's even like become a genre, Midwest emo or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? All right.
It is odd. I did want to talk about you mentioned kind of the way that y'all approach your faith and your music and all. And I saw on y'all's Facebook from like 2018, y'all kind of made a statement of what y'all's faith means to you. And kind of the way y'all portray your faith. You had like 5 kind of core things, like y'all want to break the stigma, to break modern day stereotypes, what it means to be a Christian band, not meant to judge you, things like that. Did y'all get much pushback from Christians at first, or for the type of music do you play? Do y'all deal with a lot of pushback from Christians and the Christian music industry, if you will?
That's a good question. I feel like most of the like hard criticisms are from other Christians or quote unquote Christians. As far as like our secular audience, we really haven't ran into a lot of like awkwardness or judgment. Obviously there's crazy people on the internet, whatever,
Right.
but no, I feel like most of the backlash or critiques are from quote unquote like Christians, and that's always been probably the more frustrating angle to deal with, just because it's like, hey, we're supposed to be on the same team here, and it's like you're kind of doing the devil's work here by trying to like stop us from being a band or whatever.
Yeah, we talk a lot about in like the Christian music space, the 2 genres that seem to do the best at proclaiming their faith or talking about issues that other Christian genres don't talk about is metal and hip hop. I think metal because metal's very bold with it, and then hip hop because they just have economy of words. They can just say a lot more and give a lot more in a message. But I do think that the 2, and they're the 2 genres that a lot of people want to discount as not really Christian music.
That's always super awkward. Like I personally, I wasn't a Christian until I was 19, so my whole life, like pretty much atheist. I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't know the culture or anything like that. And so like when you see like CCM culture or just like worship music, it's usually painted in a really bright, like safe, everything is going well light,
Yeah.
And like when I found God, I was coming out of a dark place. It was like not at all relatable. It didn't feel like it was made for me. It didn't connect with me. Now there's great songs out there for sure, but and there's definitely a place for that. But for me, it was more about what can I contribute as a Christian artist in a metal scene, like reaching a secular audience. What can I contribute that hasn't already been said or done?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like with this style of music, it's raw, it's visceral, it's honest, it's heartfelt, it's angry. It's got so many different emotions to unpack that can mirror real life experiences, trauma, abuse, mental health. The list goes on. These are things that everybody deals with. And I feel like, well, I can talk about those same things just from a Christian perspective and hopefully try and have a point to a light at the end of the tunnel. That's all really like I try to really think about.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I think it's cool and important for people to recognize, because I think like young people, when they come up and they think like, oh, I want to make Christian music, they think of like K-Love. And that's all they think of. They don't really think that they think they have to pull out of this interest area that they have with art to go over here and make what's been kind of ordained as good Christian art. I think music is one of those. I get a lot of flack as a pastor because I don't like worship music at all. In fact, I've walked out on stage before and had one of the people in our worship band be like, "Oh, here comes Zach. He doesn't like worship music. Everybody hush." And it's like, I mean, it's true. I don't like it, but I do really like your music, and back whatever they're going through now or wherever they're at now. But like Under Oath was formational with my music listening experience. Devil Wears Prada was that way too. Like these bands that at least at one time proclaimed that it was almost like a safe outlet for someone who was a Christian and was working through their faith as a young person to have like, I like heavy music, so I have these people that I can go to. I know I'm not going to have some anti faith music being played, which I know that that's not the case for both of those bands at this point in time, but back then it was. And so I think the work that you do for your like young people, one, who are interested in making music, but also just for people who are looking for y'all's type of music, that's super cool and super impactful. As a dad and having kids, I always am excited whenever I find not hokey or kind of cheesy Christian stuff, but just true Christian art, or talking about things from a faith-filled perspective. That's super important. That's super cool to be able to share that with, the next generation of young people coming up now.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something that's on the radar, it's like trying to leave something good behind. But yeah, like we have a unique opportunity to try and share something honest, and I don't really get a lot of that from a lot of contemporary Christian media, like where you talk about like true struggle or even doubt and faith, or, like relatable real things. Like I feel like a lot of like Christian outlets are afraid to like even talk about that stuff, and it's like, well, we have an opportunity here. Let's try and create something that's real and meaningful, and that might go against the status quo. Like I'm totally open to that. Like I want to do that.
Yeah, it was. We were talking when we came over to see you. We had a little time in the car, and we were kind of going through like the catalog, like, oh, I hope they play this. Oh, I hope they play this. And there was like a point in the car ride where I was like, I wonder if they will. And then we get there, and you played all of them that are, have a Christian message in them, or they don't. And it just kind of, you ran through, because y'all have some music that if you didn't know that part about you, you could play a whole set almost where God was not a mention, or there wasn't like an outward Christian statement made in your music, because y'all got just a catalog of awesome music.
Yeah,
you played all of those too, and that's super cool to get there and that to be the case that y'all do that.
Like, how far back do you go, like on albums that you play live?
It depends. I feel like recently, with all the changes we've gone through, and we've noticed like a big spike in interest with our band since I Won't Survive. I feel like everything pretty much pre-2020 we don't really like touch on so much. Not that we don't want to, or we don't love those songs or whatever, but I feel like a lot of our audience started off of that record. So lately that's kind of been in our set list.
Yeah, I first learned you on the Deceptive Heart shirt. I'm like,
oh wow. Yep.
Yeah. Put that way.
Josh is the Christian metal historian of all historians.
Yeah.
He'll like name stuff off, and I'm like, dude, you've lost me. I'm not as in tune as you are.
Well, I'm a few years older than you are, so
I'm with you on that though. I can tell you about all the metalcore bands of yesteryear.
Right.
Yeah, we were talking one day, and we were talking about like, we were going back as far as we could go and think of like Christian metalcore bands in particular that we could like remember, and like who were the first ones we were listening to. And Josh was telling me all these, like, they weren't metalcore, they were just kind of metal bands in the 90s. And I was like, oh, that's right, that genre really didn't exist yet whenever you started listening to Christian metal music. It was like hardcore or it was metal. They hadn't really collided yet, and they were still pretty separate when you started picking it up.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Yeah, that stuff's awesome. all for that. We could do a whole separate podcast on that.
Sure.
So, is there a band that you would love to play with, you haven't gotten a chance to yet? Somebody you'd love to go out on tour with, secular or not, that y'all kind of look to and you're like, yeah, those guys would be sick?
Me personally, it's crazy too, because we were really, really close, and I don't know if something's going to come of this. But the band It Dies Today, we were talking about older bands and influential bands. That's like my Mount Rushmore metalcore band. Like, it's on there. Just because, that was like the reason I started screaming. It like guided me with like my lyric process early on. And they recently reached out to me, and like we're kind of friends now on Instagram or whatever. But yeah, this is like my favorite band, and we've gotten really close to touring with them, and I would love to do it just so I can just fanboy and punish them every day, asking questions about songs and vocal techniques.
That's pretty cool. Do you do that a lot when you're on tour? Like, have opportunities to talk with bands about the way they do what they do?
Oh yeah, I will. And it's funny too, because a lot of these guys, like, they don't really are like vocalists. A lot of them are just like, oh, I just kind of get up there and do what I do. And I'm like, do you realize you're doing a tunnel scream with the fry? And you're also, like, and they're like, I never used to be like that, but pre like COVID 2020, I was pretty much just like caveman, like, I'm just screaming in the mic. And then things got kind of serious for me, and I had to like really like start doing some work on that. And now I'm like a nerd, so I'll punish people like, oh, like, what's your technique and how are you? What's your diaphragm support like? And a lot of these guys are just kind of like, dude, like, leave me alone. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. What is speaking of 2020, you had Lorna Shore kind of blow up, and that was, they brought, I think, maybe that heavy deathcore scream kind of into like the TikTok world and into the mainstream world, and that kind of popped up on everybody's radar. Do you think that had any boost in like the heavier music gaining some traction? And you look over and you see like Falling in Reverse goes on these big tours, and he does a lot, but he does some heavier vocals as well, and them kind of gaining in popularity. Has that trickled into y'all's world at all, you think?
I think so. Yeah. We quick caveat, you're talking about Lorna Shore. So Will was in a band called Awaken Providence, and we toured with them back in like 2015. So I actually got to see him like do exactly what he's doing now in front of, like small rooms and small crowds. And it was just like so incredible to see how talented he was. And he's like basically like, I mean, I'm sure he's better now in some ways, but he was basically the same vocalist there. And then like in front of like 12 people in a coffee shop to now like 12,000 in a festival. And it's like, it's just crazy, like, to see that. I don't know. I think about that a lot.
On TikTok, and he gets 12,000 fans. Wow.
Yeah, I feel like there's been a big like resurgence in heavy music and the interest towards it. Lately, I've been like obsessing over Sleep Token, and you can go to Five Below, and get a poster of theirs, or you can get a pop figure of theirs, at a toy store, and it's like, this is insane. Like, people are really, there's Olympic skaters with like Sleep Token logos on their helmets. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. So I think there's even a study. I don't know if it was Billboard or Rolling Stone or somebody did an article where they talked about how hard rock and metal is becoming like one of the top grossing genres right now. So
I saw something on Twitter or something like that yesterday about that, where it like surpassed, it became the number one this last year or something like that.
I think it was
Live Nation. I read the headline. They like crossed X number of $1 billion in sales for the first time in a long time.
Now you got me looking it up. I think it was Live Nation, because they're, they do the tickets.
Right.
We can come back to that. But yeah, I swear, I think it was like Live Nation or Ticketmaster or whoever that was just saying like there's been a big resurgence in metal, hard rock ticket sales.
You mentioned Sleep Token. I'm just curious your thoughts on them. It's one of those weird bands when you think of it from a faith perspective, in my opinion, because I can let go of, and I like Sleep Token, so I want to caveat this by saying I'm a fan. But it is one of those weird things because it is almost like an outward worship of something else, whether it's a gimmick or not. That's what the statement is. Everything's an offering, everything's a ritual. From a faith perspective, does that give you any pause or bother you at all, or do you just think about the music and how it's just kind of trippy and different?
Like I definitely understand what you're saying, and like I'm sure that's super relevant for some people. For me, it doesn't challenge my faith. I grew up on scary movie. I went and seen Weapons last night. That movie was
Yeah.
awesome. I love like horror and obviously metal, which is like adjacent to that in some way. I've always been interested in alternative culture, and it doesn't quite challenge my faith. For me, like seeing stuff like that, it's not like true like demonic worship or anything like that. It's more theatrical. We've toured with bands like that, and I've had those sit downs where I'm like, hey man, like, are you like worshiping Satan? Like what what and like it's like 10 out of 10 times like they're like laughing and they're like, no dude, it's just like a movie. It's just a theatrical thing. And while I'm not supportive of like representing a pentagram or anything like that, I can at least see it for what it is. Like so I'm not gonna like support anything demonic or anything like that, but I can at least appreciate like a cool song or a cool movie. But that's just me personally, and I know that's it can be kind of a touchy thing for certain audiences or people to hear. But I'm just being honest. Like I like scary movies and I like certain bands just because they sound cool, and as long as it's not making me question or doubt or sway me from my relationship with Jesus, then I'm fine.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was just curious your take on it being in the same space as them. Stephen King actually talked about that, talking about scary movies, and his on writing his kind of pseudo biography he wrote, where he talks about like foul language in his books and everything. It's he's writing a character. It's not actually his voice, and people want to say that's him speaking. He's like, it's just a character that I'm writing. That's how the sailor would talk in this scene. So that's how I'm going to write that he would talk. I'm not going to change it just because it's insecure for you. He was like, in fact, I think it's lowbrow and, unintelligent that he talks like that, but that's who he is. So I'm going to write it that way.
Yeah, no, I think what they're doing is really cool and super interesting. Yeah, like when I hear the word like worship or something, I'm like, like, are you really mean that? Or you, or is it just kind of like a theatrical thing? I think it's a theatrical thing.
And theirs was weird because they popped so quick that like everybody heard the music and then learned the lore after.
Yeah,
it wasn't like a build up to the music. You kind of heard "Take Me Back to Eden," and then it's like, what is this that he's actually talking about? You would like dig a little bit deeper and get this like the goddess of sleep and all of this stuff that they're quote unquote talking about and worshiping.
Yeah, it's a really like there's a lot of sandboxing, a lot of like theatrics and lore and stuff. My favorite band is Slipknot, so like I'm gonna be really biased towards any mask or like
Midwest.
Right. Yeah, that stuff's cool.
That was my next question actually, because now you got the band President that has kind of popped up and is making music, and they're another masked band, Sleep Token, Slipknot. What do you think about the whole mask thing? I mean, you obviously don't. You're out there and you are who you are on stage. I
think it's super interesting. Yeah, like it adds a whole nother like element to the show and the band. Like as we've gotten bigger and we've like brought in production and things like this to our show, like I'm starting to think more like that, like the theatrical experience where it's like, somebody's spending so much on a ticket, like how much can you really give them for that ticket? And like when I go to a show, like I want to be entertained. I want to see something,
Yeah.
And I think there's like a growth and maturity I've had in my walk with music where, there's the culture and there's the grassroots of just, playing a sweaty, awesome show. And it's just like raw in your face. And then there's the other spectrum where it's like, there's theatrics, there's lights, there's production, there's costumes, there's wardrobe, whatever. That stuff's really exciting, and people really want to see that. So I want to see that. Like I want to be entertained. So when you're like bringing in mask or costumes or set designs and stuff. Like it's just so immersive, and it adds a whole nother layer to the music. And I think that's really cool. I'd love to pursue that in some way. I don't know if I'm going to be putting on a mask or anything, but
Hey, why not?
who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, the president rollout was kind of cool. I think that I don't know if the jury still may be out for me on their music, but the whole like the campaign starts here and like this whole presidential using the was it Nixon's like campaign song and like stuff in their marketing leading up to it. It was just kind of cool that they leaned heavy into this like idea of being these kind of old presidents and playing that up. I thought it was kind of interesting the way they rolled it out.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Point Break, if you've seen that Keanu Reeves, Patrick Swayze movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of that. I think it's interesting. I think it's cool. Like I don't know much about that band. They kind of came out of nowhere, but people seem to really like them. That's all I know.
Yeah. Interesting thing. One thing I always want to ask when I talk to people is like, you do something really cool. You do something that people kind of aspire to. You get to travel, play music in a band, make a living doing it, and meet cool people. We've talked about some of the people you've played with, and someone who aspires to do what you do now. Maybe they're a young kid coming up, or maybe it's somebody who's in a band and is like, I don't know, maybe I should give up on this dream. What is kind of your thoughts on, or what would something you would tell somebody who's in that early stage of this development of making music? Like one tip that you would say, like, hey, if someone had told me this, 10 years ago, it would have made a world of difference for me.
It's really hard to quantify that in one word or one piece of advice.
One word or whatever you want to give away. I don't want to release
you got me thinking. I'm like, well, should I say sacrifice? Should I say persistence? I'm lucky enough now to where I can do this like almost daily when I'm talking to these newer artists that are learning about screaming. It's really rewarding. If I could talk to myself, it's kind of tricky because I knew, like, with unshakable doubt that this is what I wanted to do, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get here.
Mm-hmm.
And I still feel that way.
Right.
So I don't know if that'll ever go away, but it's really a lot of sacrifice, probably more than you're ready to chew off. Because it's like, as I've gotten further into this, I'm starting to have to like really make some really tough decisions, and that's something that you will need to be prepared for. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, supposed to be best man in my brother's wedding, and I'm not gonna be able to make that. Like, that's a big deal for me, mm-hmm. And I like tough stuff like that. Like, you're gonna have to make decisions you don't want to make, but for the grand scheme, besides sacrifice, it's persistence. You can be the most talented drummer or screamer or whoever in the world, but if you're, you have one setback and you give it up, like, then where's that going to go? So like having like hard persistence, like almost blinders up, like just keep going, keep at it. Mm-hmm. Even your favorite bands, the biggest bands, they all go through these like zigzags of highs and lows, like you have to keep going. Like, you can't stop. Like, there's going to be major setbacks, and yeah, you just got to keep going. I have like high school friends that talk to me and they're like, I can't believe you're still doing it. It's so cool to see, X, Y, and Z. And, it's just like, yeah, like I just didn't stop.
Like we were going to do this. Right. It was not an option.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super awesome. I just had two things, and not really questions, that I just wanted to mention. One, the single curse that you did with Reformed, probably my favorite song that's come out in an exceptionally long time. It was on repeat for a while once it came out. So thank y'all for making that, because that's incredible.
Heck yeah. Thank you.
And then you got a tour coming up. Kind of a cool one for the Christian kind of space, and that with Demon Hunter.
Yeah, that one's gonna be a lot of fun. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. Demon Hunter was like one of the formidable bands when I was getting into like Christian metalcore. My brother and I was just talking about. I remember him and I sitting down watching there's a Demon Hunter DVD, probably came out like 15, 20 years ago, somewhere in that gray area. And now being able to perform with them, that's going to be crazy. I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, it's funny. They had I went to a fairly like forward thinking church, I guess you'd say, when I was a teenager, and they had a music store in the church. So like they had CDs, almost looked like an old record store.
Mine did too. Yeah.
And everything was very CCM, but there was a small section that had like early Skillet, and then there was a Demon Hunter album in the early section. So my first kind of taste of it was Demon Hunter way back in the day.
Dude, that's so cool. I had this like a same experience, but with Redeemer and Norma Jean.
Oh yeah.
My dad was like, "Hey, this looks like a metal band. You should listen to them." And I was like, "Okay, love them." So sick. That record rocks.
Another good one I didn't think about, but well, man, Josh, do you have anything else?
How do these collaborations like come up? Do you like reach out to them, or they reach out to you?
Are you talking about the tour?
Tours, or like like the Reformed, staying with a holy name, all those kind of acts like that.
Yeah, it was kind of a small world that like we're operating in. Like with the Christian metalcore scene, there's so many like Facebook groups and like once you meet one person, you meet like 30 because they're all like friends. Right. So Tommy and we got connected through Transparent Media, which was my buddy Trevor, who had his own podcast, and then he went on to make his own band that I've been helping with. But he introduced me to Tommy, and then Tommy and I worked out that collab. But what was cool about that was Trevor hooked me up with Tommy, and then I did their feature, and then we were invited to go out to California to support their Run Against Traffic event,
right?
Which is a human trafficking benefit show that we did. And then that introduced us to our now manager and our now booking agent and Demon Hunter, because Ryan was there. So like we were kind of like on their radar. So it's just kind of like you got to take all these opportunities and try and meet who you can. And luckily, like for these guys, it was just so cool and really welcoming. They could have easily been like, "Oh, I don't want this random band on this show," or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a lot of like networking and meeting cool people. A lot of it can be straight like cold calls. Reformed, I didn't really know about them until they like reached out to me, and then since then we've been like really hitting it off. Those guys are cool.
Yeah.
Is it harder being a more independent band without having like the big support from like say Face Down, Solid State, labels like that?
It just depends on the band, I guess, because like a record label, like we've been signed before, can be definitely like helpful, especially like when it comes to like budgeting and advertising and such, or networking. But they're not going to do everything for you, and you have to not just be like business savvy, but you also have to be like self-sufficient or self-sustainable, like to where you can make the right calls and stay busy. You can't expect somebody to do it all for you. But I feel like now more than ever, like with things like TuneCore, CD Baby, like you can have your own distributor like built in. So if you can record your own music, you can get it out there to the world for people to hear like pretty easily. So I don't know. I feel like it's a lot easier now to like get yourself up and off the ground than it's ever been.
Okay.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Well, hey man, thank you so much. This has been an awesome conversation, and I'm thankful for your music. I'm thankful for us getting the chance to get to come see you in Memphis. Little Rock's an awesome spot. We have good venues for metal music here. So if you're ever in the South, it's a great stop off. And we'd love to have you for whatever we can offer down here in Little Rock. But thankful for y'all. Thankful for your time and coming on with us today. It's been incredible to get to speak with you again, and nothing but success and hope for y'all. Prayers for y'all as y'all go forward with everything y'all got going on, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah, we'll definitely have to link up next time we're in Little Rock.
Come on, we'll make it happen.
Well, cool.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much, and we'll holler at you sometime.
Cool. All right.
Awesome, man. See you.